Hello and welcome back to Cooking in the Quads. Today I'm going to show you guys how to make a pretty easy vegan chili recipe that is cooked in a crock pot, and we're also going to add some protein to it at the end with some beefless grounds, and I hope you guys enjoy this fall meal. Okay, so for today's ingredients for our vegan chili, we're going to need some vegetable broth, some black beans and kidney beans, some diced tomatoes, some tomato sauce, 1 medium green pepper, some minced garlic, beefless grounds, frozen corn, a medium onion, some cocoa baking powder, ground cayenne pepper, chili powder, oregano leaves, and some ground black pepper. And we will also need to use a crock pot for this recipe. Okay, so to start for today's recipe, we are going to take our green pepper, and I've already washed it, and now we're just going to cut it up into little pieces. I'm going to take the top off first. I'm going to cut it in half. And now that I have a look at the inside, it makes it easier for me to get all the seeds out in the middle part. So we just want to take both of these out from the middle of the green pepper on each side. Careful not to cut your fingers, I almost did there. And now I'm going to cut it up into little kind of spears, and after I cut it into spears, it's going to make it easier to chop into little square segments when I hold them together. I'll show you what I mean. So we'll cut it into spears. I'll demonstrate with one half of this. And then once you have some spears going, it should be like about this size. If you hold them together, and then you go across them from the top to the bottom, you can make little square pieces pretty easy. I'm gonna repeat this process for the second half of the pepper, and I'll see you in a little bit. Okay, I finished cutting up the green pepper. I'll show you what the little squares look like. And now we're just going to go ahead and open our crock pot, and you can start adding our first ingredient. Just scoop it on right in there. And now next, we're going to get working on our onion. So I'm just going to take it and I'm going to cut it in half. Just like that. Now that I've cut it in half, it makes it kind of easier to peel off that outer layer of skin that it has. So just peel this skin off, and then your yellow onion should look a little whitish yellow once you get it all off. There we go. And now I'm going to take this half of the onion and cut off this top piece right here. Okay. And then I'm kind of going to do what I did with the green pepper, and I'm going to make it into kind of spears or splinters, whatever you want to call them. I just find it easier to work with things when you're kind of dicing or chopping them into smaller pieces if you do this first. Okay, now that I've got them into the spears, I'm going to bring them lengthwise again and go from top to bottom, just cutting them into little square pieces. Should have wore goggles for this. I can already feel my eyes tearing up. Alright, so I've got the half the onion kind of cut up into these small little squares, just like the green pepper. Whew, my eyes. And I'm going to repeat the process with this other half of the onion, and I'll see you guys in a little bit. Alright, we have finished frying and cutting up the onion. We've got it in little squares, so we're going to go ahead and add this to our crock pot. scoop it on in there. And next, we're going to go ahead and add our minced garlic. So I'm going to open this up. Might need a knife to get this off. Still got those short fingernails. There we go. And the recipe calls for 3 cloves of garlic, either minced or finely chopped. I chose to just get minced garlic in general, and a clove is equal to a teaspoon, so I'm going to get a teaspoon measuring thingy right here. And I'm just going to scoop 3 scoops of this garlic out, make it level. 1, 2, and 3. So we're all set with that. Next thing we're going to do is get our tomatoes that are diced and our tomato sauce, and go ahead and add the whole can to our crock pot. I am going to attempt to open them with our can opener we have here, but this will probably result in me struggling off camera again, as this does not work very well. Yeah, it's not working too well, so I am going to get these open off camera and I'll be right back. Okay, that took me a little bit of time, but I'm back. So we've got our diced tomatoes, and we're just going to go ahead and add those into our crock pot. And we've got our tomato sauce, and we're going to go ahead and add that as well. And I also took the liberty of opening our beans off camera, and we are going to strain them in a strainer and also rinse them. So I'm going to take both cans and just empty them on out right into the strainer. And then I'm going to go ahead and run this underneath the faucet for about 5-10 seconds or so. Just trying to rinse them off. Let the water drain out for a second. And now we'll go ahead and add our beans to our chili. There we go. And now we'll take our vegetable broth, open this on up, and for this recipe we're going to be using 2 cups of vegetable broth. So I'll do 1, pretty close to level. Go ahead and add it in, and now 2. And the next step is we're going to move on to our spices and baking cocoa powder, and I will show you the measurements that we are going to use for those spices. So for our spices, we are going to use half a teaspoon of ground black pepper, oregano leaves, and chili powder. As for the cayenne pepper, we're going to use 1/8 of a teaspoon. And then for the baking cocoa, we're going to go just a little bit under 1 tablespoon. So I'm going to go ahead and add the spices. I'm going to start with the cocoa powder. Just get a little bit under a tablespoon. Like that much. Not completely level to the top, but a good amount. Throw it on in there. And then we'll do the cayenne pepper. And we'll do 1/8 of a teaspoon. It's a little hard to pour out, but we're almost there. There we go. So if you have trouble with spices, if you just squeeze it a little bit, That's the trick, I found it. So we'll add that in. And then we'll move on to our 1/2 teaspoon measurements, and that will be the ground black pepper. That's what we'll start with. I'm doing this over the sink, so if I spill a little bit, I can just kind of wash it down. So we got our ground black pepper. Go ahead and add that. And we'll do our oregano leaves. There we go. And last but not least, the chili powder. And we'll do 1/2 teaspoon of this. Again, easier if you just kind of squeeze it a little bit. We'll add that in. I'm going to go ahead and add a little extra. I like spice in my food. There we go. And now we're going to take our mixing tool. We're just going to stir everything around. And there's 2 options for cooking this. You can choose to cook it on low for about 5 hours. Or if you don't like waiting that long for your food like me, we're going to go ahead and set this thing to high for 2.5 hours. Got everything mixing here. And while we're cooking this for 2.5 hours, I'm going to come back around the 2-hour mark, and I'm going to add in the frozen corn and the beefless grounds to the crock pot, and they will cook in the last half an hour, and we'll be done. So I will go ahead and set this to high, and I'll see you guys in about 2 hours. Okay, so it's been about 2 hours since we started cooking this chili in the crock pot on high. Go ahead and take the lid off. I'm going to start by just stirring things around in here. And now we're going to take our frozen corn. I'm going to get 1 cup measuring cup for a cup of corn. And now we'll add that to the chili. And then we'll take our beefless grounds. I'm using Gardein, I think it's called. And I'm going to go ahead and add about 1.5 cups of beefless grounds here. So go ahead and pour in 1 cup. One. Got some bigger pieces stuck together in here. Get those out of the way for now and get the crumbles. There's another almost a cup, so should be about 1.5 cups right there. And we're going to go ahead and stir this around now. And we're just going to wait an additional 30 minutes and everything should be ready. So I will see you guys in 30 minutes for the finished product. Okay, so it's been about 1/2 hour since we added the frozen corn and beefless grounds, and our chili is all done. So we'll give it a stir. Got a bowl right here. And here's our finished product. Some nice chili to enjoy on a fall day. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.